Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the weekend edition of House Divided here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum, and that's Chad Hastings. Do us a favor, whether you know us or not. Like, just be a good person. Like, comment, subscribe, go into the Specs chat, chat it up. We've got Chris Bennett, we've got Sailor Joe, we've got Tex Blondo 5. They're already in the Specs chat. Hope everybody has a fantastic weekend as we get started talking about Texas football. Should remind everybody this show brought to you by Texas Card House. They're the official title sponsor of House Divided. And yeah, they've got 6 locations all over the state of Texas. They got them in Houston. They got them in Austin. They're in the Metroplex. But you can play online poker for money through Texas Card House by using their Hijack Poker. Scan that QR code and play real poker for real cash. Like the good old days. They're back. You got to be inside the state of Texas. You can cash out at any of the Texas Card House locations, but that doesn't mean you have to put your money in. It takes credit cards. It does all of the things you want it to. Go check it out this weekend. I've already been playing some hijack poker earlier today. I won like $4. Chad, how about that?
Hey, that's $4 you didn't have when you woke up that day.
I was playing the 2-cent, 5-cent antes or the blinds at one of the games and made myself $4 over the course of an hour. Felt like a job well done.
Hey, that is nice. I never scoff at any amount of money when it comes to that. Like I know people that if you find like $2 or $3 on the ground, they'll just kind of spit on it like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I don't care what it is. If I find anything over really a penny, if I find a nickel or up, it's a big day.
I felt like Louis Anderson in Coming to America, you know?
Yeah,
right now, I'm washing lettuce. Then I'll be on fries. One day the cash register, and that's when the big bucks start to roll in. Guys, Texas football having a big recruiting weekend. It's kind of where we start today's show because we'll be able to weave it into some of the spring football discussions that continue that will go into this weekend. They've got a big event going on tomorrow. There'll be coaches all over the place. It'll probably be one of the standout practices of the spring. So there's that to look forward to. We've got all the usual discussion, but the Longhorns are again hosting a really big weekend of recruiting, Chad. And I think one of the things that stood out to me when I was looking at the list, because there's a lot of guys that we'll talk about, that we'll be able to go through and do little slight previews to like who to pay attention to. Hard not for me to think about KJ Edwards, the in-state running back that we know out of Carthage, that Texas is, with all of their actions, they've essentially treated KJ Edwards like he's Felix Ojo. There were other running backs in the state that looked like could have been in the conversation. Javion Osborne, one of them. Mm-hmm. And as soon as Chad Scott came in from West Virginia as the new running backs coach, it just became abundantly clear KJ Edwards is the number one guy at a position that we've talked about all week long for a variety of reasons. But, you know, if you think that the Texas running back situation is good and doesn't need to go into the portal, then it would stand to reason that the high school stuff is really important this weekend. Getting your top guy is really important. And also, consequently, if you think that this running back position needs an injection of talent, that it needs a little more oomph and a little more star power and a little bit more guarantee on the box, then get in a guy who's a state top 10 prospect, one of the nation's top 50 prospects, and a guy that visited Texas A&M. This is one of the, I think, true Texas A&M battles this year in recruiting. We did a show a couple of weeks ago about how there's less of that than you would think there is, that A&M's kind of doing their thing and Oklahoma's kind of doing their thing and Texas is kind of doing their thing, and they're not crossing streams a lot. But KJ Edwards was at A&M a week ago. He's at Texas this weekend. It is going to come down to those two schools. The Longhorns have long thought to be the leader in that recruitment. And given just everything about the running back position, when I look at the list of names, John Turntine stands out, and we'll get to that in a little bit. There's a couple of them that do. But it's hard for me to not focus on KJ Edwards, I suppose.
I mean, those are the first two names that certainly jumped out to me. Got a couple of quarterbacks coming in, including Diabell. That's going to be some focus for people. In terms of the running back situation, you mentioned KJ Edwards and then you said Ojo's name. In terms of the communication, we've seen that Ojo has been told along the way that it's either you and John Turntine are our top target or you are our top target. Can Texas?
They've told Ojo. Ojo's done 3 interviews with Orange Bloods alone where he specifically says out loud, they told me I was the most important guy they're recruiting, basically in the entire recruiting class.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's and I asked Sukamel about this as well. Like didn't just, I was trying to think, how many times have we heard that over the years since Steve Sarkisian has been here? It's not been a lot. You would have, Arch wouldn't have needed to do an interview to say that. You know what I mean? He wouldn't need to say it. That would have just gone without saying. But there hasn't been, I don't even remember Colin Simmons or somebody like that saying, Sark said, I'm the number one guy. It is notable, I think.
So it's kind of for both guys this weekend with KJ Edwards and John Turntine coming in. I do wonder what the verbiage is going to be and the language is going to be to Turntine. We'll get to that discussion. But for you, can they afford to go that strong with KJ Edwards, with guys like Xavier Crowell, number 1 running back in the country out there that's got an official visit scheduled? Can they afford to be that bold with KJ Edwards and have him coming out of this weekend saying, hey, man, they're telling me I'm their number 1 running back?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it's interesting. I think the running back, there's an in-state running back deal where those guys are really your peers. And then there's the national type thing. And, I'm sure they're telling Crowell that he's their top guy nationally. There's a lot of ways to parch it where you could almost have both of those guys kind of say equal things and they still be true. But yeah, look, I can't stress it enough. It looked like at one point in this class that Forney running back Javian Osborne, who I have ranked slightly ahead of KJ Edwards in my last set of rankings. I love Osborne. And I'm a big fan of KJ Edwards. I have them both as state top 10 prospects, right? So I essentially have them rated exactly the same. But I did slot Osborne ahead of Edwards at the same position, would seem to indicate that very slightly. I personally preferred Osborne, but it's very close. They just stopped. They changed running backs coaches, and Javian Osborne just stopped hearing from Texas, which is another way of saying they moved on. Mm-hmm. And when they moved on, the guy that they intensified was KJ Edwards. One thing impacted the other. It looked like Osborne and Edwards might end up in this Texas recruiting class together. That was, I think, what I thought was going to happen in January. And I think if they were still going after Osborne, I don't know that it would impact either of those guys, although maybe you get to the running back position at guys at that level. And it's possible that we could look at it the same way we would at the offensive tackle position, where it's like, okay, are Ojo and Turntine really going to go in the same recruiting class at the same school? Because they won't play the same position. They wouldn't want that, I don't think. So if they both fancy themselves as left tackles of the future, it's hard to see where both of those guys end up in the class together. Although it's one of those things where it's like, if all things are equal, and the moment one of those guys commits, it's now unequal, right? But in a world where who signed in front of you doesn't matter, what's the depth chart look like in a world where it's like, where do they prefer going to schools? I think Texas is the answer for both of those guys. Yeah. Now, the real world kicks in. The impact of a guy like Felix Ojo in this Texas recruiting class, for me, he is the number 1 prospect in the state. He will be the number 1 guy when I redo my rankings, and they haven't been done since January. But when I do the update, he and Turntine's the former number 1. He's going to slip a little bit because of the frame, because he is 6'3"-ish, 270 pounds-ish. And, I'm a little unsure what he is at the next level from a position standpoint. In fact, you know where I'd love John Turntine to play, Chad?
Kicker? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of something else. Where?
Center.
Really?
Well, because the number of elite center prospects across his body screams right now. He doesn't look like a guy that's going to easily get back up to 320, 330. I think he might be an interior guy long-term because of his height anyway. I think that if the NFL is looking at Kelvin Banks right now and saying, we're not sure about that whole tackle thing, while the rest of us that have watched him play go, what are you talking about? But they do that. And they're doing it some with Banks. If they do it with Banks, they would definitely do it with Turntine. His NFL position's inside. And as an NFL offensive lineman, guards are pretty huge. Like, Kyle Flood's not the only guy that likes big inside guys.
Right.
So, but centers, athletic and smart, and he has the tools. He has the tools to be the best center prospect that the state has produced maybe since Ben Wilkerson signed with LSU back in the class of 2001 and Wilkerson was a 4-year starter at LSU, didn't really do anything in the NFL, but he was an All-American, and he was in the Jonathan Scott, Quan Cosby, Cedric Griffin, Cedric Benson, Derek Johnson recruiting class. And he was like thought of in that kind of territory. We haven't seen a guy. Now, look, John Turntine might hear me say that and give me like a double middle finger salute because he's being told that he's a tackle.
Yeah. And he may want to be one.
And it may be that is ultimately how he decides where he wants to go. Who loves me the most at tackle and who has the best depth chart? No, by the way, who has the best NIL to go along with those two things. I'm just saying when I look at him now, it's hard to see franchise left tackle. It's much easier for me knowing how good he is at football to envision him in a slightly different role. And in that role, I think I would absolutely love him even more so than I do as a tackle prospect. But that's a little outside the box. And believe me, he is not hearing that from coaches on the recruiting trail.
All right. We're going to we'll keep this discussion going. We want to also mention to you, if you want to throw a super chat at us, it'll go right to the top of the list. Also, we need to let you know that we are aware of something. And Tex Blonde, I do love a good nickname. Nico Iamaleava is MIA in practice. Anthony wanted to know, are you keeping an eye on the Nico Iamaleava situation?
Can I answer that in 2 words, Chad?
Please do.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, we are aware. We are aware, Anthony. Thank you for checking in and making sure, but we want to make sure we are aware of that situation.
No, guys, here's the thing. As much as that's a story we will talk about, believe me, I got a buy or sell question on it and everything, and we're not going to wait that long, and maybe this is our segue into it or the beginning of it. Yeah, we can't put that on the thumbnail.
No, it can't be there, but it is, the idea that Nico might be renegotiating with Tennessee in terms of NIL and moreover, Catch, has not appeared yet at spring practice. Is that correct?
All I'm saying is if we put like a thumbnail that was like Nico's impact on Texas, you guys would freak out.
Yeah, right, exactly. We're not going there. But it is a story that we will definitely keep up with. If you guys want to throw in a super chat, we'll get to that. We hope you're having a good Friday. Also, let's give you an idea. If you're looking for a good place to go grab a bite, I'm going to recommend Hayes City Store. That is right. Daytime, nighttime, it's always a good time at Hayes City Store. Somebody told us this week they just went out there recently and had the bacon jam burger. That's a good place to start. You love a good burger. Their bacon jam is awesome. If you're into such things, they are great. Here's a couple other things to take a look at. There's a couple of those pork chops and the pizza that my daughter swears by. That is the meat pizza out there, by the way. I also have a friend who loves the veggie pizza at Hayes City Store. If you want to head out there at nighttime, that's what it looks like under that beautiful tree. Get yourself a seat. Get yourself a spot out there. You may even see some famous people that appear in that picture from time to time. Hayes City Store. FM 150 in Driftwood. Get on out there and see them this weekend, any weekend. I do recommend a reservation because a lot of people know about Hayes City Store and you want to make sure you maximize your time. So get on out there. All right. I do not see any super chats right now. We will get to some more chats coming up. And again, we start off with some recruiting discussion with big names coming in this weekend. It is a long list, Catchy. We've hit some of the biggest names, KJ Edwards, John Turntine. There's a lot of guys coming in to visit this weekend.
Well, I don't think it's a small thing that your 5-star quarterback Diabell is in town.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have guys recruiting him until the very end. So getting him on campus over and over and over again. And look, he comes from means that allow him to do this maybe a little bit more than Joe Schmo. I mean, it is, one of the reasons I think why you love Diabell is he has these professional sports top bloodline in him. His dad's a former professional athlete. It's no easy thing to fly back and forth.
Right.
And he's done it a few times. And every time he does, I think it carries weight and value because you love it when your quarterback can be a bit of a Pied Piper. Sometimes it's hard to be a Pied Piper if you live in another state.
Yeah, but every time he keeps coming back, you just feel like it's re-recruitment, not of him, but of others.
Right. Oh, right? Absolutely. And
coming in and talking to other guys.
And feel, what are we seeing? Or I think it might have been last weekend. It was him with Felix Ojo, and it was, kind of teasing future quarterback and left tackle of the Longhorns. They know what they're doing when they take those photos and they put them up on social media. But Diabell taking photos with the guy that thinks he's the most important prospect because he's saying the coaches are telling him that. Yes, you want that guy involved. And so I think that's a big deal. I think it's interesting that Peyton Houston, the 2027 quarterback, is in town. He's a number 5 overall prospect. I feel like I see that guy on someone's campus every weekend. And now it's Texas. And it remains to be seen just how involved Texas will be. But he's been to Texas a bunch. So it's not out of the question. So that's another notch on the belt. You want to get to the time. By the time that guy is making his decision, maybe by this summer, you want to be able to say you had that guy on campus a half dozen times. And I've lost count, but they've got to be close with that kid.
Is this the guy, Catch, that if they could have the 2027 quarterback of their dreams, they want Peyton Houston, end of story? Or is there a more varied discussion there?
Oh, I think there's definitely a more varied conversation there. I mean, he's a guy that they're obviously working really hard on, but it's a good class. And there's some good guys inside the state of Texas as well. Like I think he's probably the top guy, but I think that is still taking shape. And I think it can't be stressed enough. This might not be the class that has them with a 5-star level quarterback. It's hard Texas has done it before. They did it with Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning to a certain extent. But if you think about how that went the following year, really Texas hasn't signed Diabell would be the next truly national quarterback prospect that Texas will have signed since Arch. That whatever we think of KJ Edwards or Lacey, and anybody that Texas will have signed in that gap in between, they're not truly national quarterback prospects. And so it's not a complete shock that Texas would have Diabell in 2026 and that 2027 might look a little more murky on paper.
By the way, Catch, slightly back to the running back discussion in a second. We got a chat earlier from Sailor Joe saying White will be a nice addition to the running back room. It's like Sark said, we are only going to add people if they are going to uplift that position room. Sailor Joe, just in case you might have missed it, we would encourage you, first off, get that QR code, joinorangebloods.com, catch that war room every Thursday night. I'm going to read directly from the war room and a note that appeared last night from Anwar. It reads, in addition, I was told Texas is happy with its current group of running backs and does not intend to look for an upgrade in the transfer portal. So, Catch, we've talked about this. I know you, with your sourcing, have heard similar things, but we're talking about 2 freshmen, 2 second-year guys for Clark and Gibson. I guess Clark gets the red shirt, right? And C.J. Baxter. The word around the 40 is they're thrilled with that group.
Thrilled.
They're not looking.
Not thrilled.
But
thrilled
they're not looking
much.
Okay, but maybe not thrilled, but not looking. Not shopping.
They like their guys 1 through 5.
Okay. All right. There it is. Sailor Joe. Then a lot of people.
But here's the thing, Chad. We talked about this on the show yesterday. I think there are some positions that you can be transparently frank about with regards to we're going to be interested in these guys in the portal. Wide receiver, tight end. It would just sound stupid, quite frankly, if he was like, no, we're good. 1 through 6, we feel great.
We don't feel better than about anything than we do about receiver and tight end.
Next question. I'm happy with the receivers because we've got like 4 or 5 less than I normally have.
That would be a great answer, by the way. I would love it if he would do that.
So there are some positions I think you can say that about, and maybe you even want to publicly announce it, right? There were some people that heard what he said and was like, oh, because all the portal candidates at those positions are waiting with bated breath on Sark's, early April comments on the needs of positions.
Yeah.
But hey, you never know. You and I used to joke when Mac would do interviews that he's not talking to us.
Right. Oh God, no.
Our moms.
He's talking to parents. He's talking to high school coaches. Like he was not talking to the media present in the building.
Ever.
No.
Ever. And the thing is, Chad and I got that, and a lot of people struggled with that. And it's like, well, once you realize, man, he doesn't give a shit about what you think or say.
And the best part, Catch, is he had a phrase that would let you know it was about to happen. Anytime a question would get asked, and Mac would start with, it's a good question, and then comma. The next thing was meant for the outside world. He was ready, man. He loaded up, and anytime you'd hear that, it's a good question. And I was like, oh, here we go. It's coming.
He was waiting for it.
He was. Yep.
So I think at the running back position, it would feel like screaming fire in a crowded theater based on everything they personally told those guys one by one, if they publicly were saying they were going to take a running back. Now, if the right guy ends up in the portal, you can always just turn around and say, well, A, we didn't know that guy was going to end up in the portal, and how could you say no to that? 2, we had more numbers than we thought we did, so we thought we were only going to have 4. We ended up with 9, and so we ended up getting, we said publicly tight end, defensive line, wide receiver, but we ended up with so many numbers that we took a corner and we took a kicker and we took a running back.
Just too good to pass up.
And, they may want the portal to close. Then they can go get a running back. The portal only closes entry-wise 10 days in.
True.
The swath of players that enter the portal, first of all, will be in no rush. There's no rush to make your decision in the next week or 2 once the portal opens up, other than to secure your spot if that type of pressure exists.
But you could theoretically wait and come out of the portal on May 15th if you wanted to.
In fact, some guys may say, I want to focus on finals.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even taking visits until after finals.
That would be brilliant. Use that don't call. What do they call it? The don't call me card?
Do not disturb.
The do not disturb tag, right. I get in the portal, do not disturb, and then I'm going to focus on finals. Do not disturb. I'll get back to you.
Everybody's juice will be different. Mm-hmm. David Bailey, though, the kid from Stanford that just entered the portal.
Yeah.
That kid would have had people waiting on him in mid-May.
That's true. That's true. And you can see he's one of those, like we talked about, that is kind of fishing for it at the beginning. Portal's not technically open yet. He's not technically in it, but he's letting everybody know I'm going to be in it.
Well, so and the other thing is, it might be that if you wait that long, there's even more money to be had, because then schools have money to spend that they told themselves. What schools don't want to have get out is they didn't spend their limits.
Yeah.
Because they'll be known as the school that doesn't spend money on NIL like everybody else.
Yeah. Hey, catch, Tennessee might have quarterback money. No, wait, that's not true. That may not be true.
What we may know about Tennessee is that right now they don't have quarterback money.
Yeah, they may not have it. They may have some extra that they weren't expecting to have.
So I'm just saying, like, I just think there are certain positions where there's just no reason. Remember we said, why would you even comment if you're sorry? Well, right. It was comfortable commenting on those things. We know they want a kicker. We know they're not happy with what they have at kicker, but they've got 2 guys on scholarship. Publicly, some things just don't need to be said out loud.
Well, that's just not an alarm position, Catch. To me, at receiver and tight end, you're sounding the alarm around the country. You're letting the studs know.
I think that's a bit much, though, because I don't think, you know how the studs know. Their agents tell them.
Maybe.
They're not waiting for Steve Sarkisian to make a public declaration. They're listening to their agent who says, hey, man, I talked to the top NIL guy at Texas A&M, and like they want you. They're ready to spend this. Don't pay attention to anything you hear, because they're ready to talk with their wallet. That's all I got. Oh, why didn't you say so? Didn't realize the wolf was on this. And I think the agents serve as, I really don't think anything that Steve Sarkisian said 2 days ago matters at all. I don't think one guy that will enter the portal will pay any attention at all. It will be about show me, don't tell me. And I think maybe in a different era, just like 12 months ago, it might have been different. But I just think, and I think maybe this is where we transfer into the Nico Iamaleava discussion, because I think that's the biggest story in sports right now. The starting quarterback of a team that was in the playoffs last year, it just didn't go to practice. It's just not going to practice. And the word on the street is that, and the thing is, like, there are scattering versions of the report. It's not a holdout. It's, we're playing word games right now. Mm-hmm. But he wants reportedly $4 million according to ESPN. Whew. He wanted that according to ESPN before the end of the first winter portal. But remember, Tennessee was still playing football. So when the portal opened up, Tennessee and Nico fell into that category of players that were in a little bit of an unfortunate situation. He probably felt like, what the hell am I supposed to do? And by the time their season ends, the portal situation looks a certain kind of way that it didn't look on December 1st. I am not defending Nico at all. I still haven't completely figured out how I feel about this story, Chad. Mm-hmm. But I am acknowledging the complicated context behind that situation. When you hear he wanted this back in the winter portal and they didn't give it to him, I can understand Tennessee's perspective on that too. You're in the season. The last thing you want to do is, and we know that Texas waited until after the season was over to address all of. So it might have been that Tennessee was like, look, you want it now. We will do this later. Well, maybe that is what was said then and it didn't happen. And so now is now. It's fascinating because I don't know if you're Tennessee. First of all, I don't know what the downside for Nico is. Tennessee's not kicking him to the curb. Their playoff hopes go down the drain if they lose their starting quarterback over some NIL Mickey Mouse stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I feel like I feel like Tennessee is going to have to cave in.
It feels like with these kind of stories, and we're going to see this in NIL, we've seen it a little bit. Remember the young guy at, was it Florida, that basically called Florida out for lying to him about NIL and then moved on. One side or another might be lying, holding out, whatever. So in this case, there's talk behind the scenes that, was this something that Tennessee leaked? Did Tennessee let this out so that that they would try to put pressure on Nico somehow from the other side?
Or to its NIL donors in a way that we've seen work effectively at LSU in this offseason.
I hadn't thought about that angle, but maybe it's a different kind of alarm, and the alarm heads towards those BMDs. It's like, look, maybe this is the extra thing of, look, remember in the winter when we told y'all Nico was going to need more money and you just kind of nodded? It's wallet time. It's wallet time right now. We told him we were going to talk to him, and I'd use a rival against them too. We can't be Florida. We can't do what Florida did with that young guy. This is our guy. We told him we'd talk to him. You can't shut up now. Don't not
so
take my calls now.
Too. You're recruiting in 2026, 2027, and your starting quarterback is like, yo, man, I can't even get taken care of in NIL. It's the worst.
That's the worst look possible. There's no worse look
than
that.
Worst.
That's all. I mean, I guess the worst look possible would be if like Peyton Manning went on a Twitter tirade against you. That's probably worse. But
no, look, what they have to do is get this thing taken care of in a way where he's back out there and the weekend, and he's like, man, I had the flu. I don't know what all these reports came from, but
right,
I wasn't holding out, and it wasn't about NIL. Like, I was sick, and I don't know where all this came from. That's what they need. It's a tricky deal. And I will say this. Don't sit on top of the hill, Texas fans, with your white picket fence, thinking this isn't something that could happen to us, because I will maintain, and I've said it before, Texas hasn't yet had to deal with the quarterback position in NIL. Quinn Ewers, holy crap. If this guy could throw the deep ball as well as he and his off-the-field reps are able to hustle up money, Tom Dan Marino throwing the ball to the Marx brothers back in the day. He was earning millions outside of the collective, outside of Texas having to do with that to do for the majority of the roster. Arch Manning, even more so. You know what Arch Manning doesn't need? A goddamn collective.
No, he is a collective.
He's beating away the NIL money with a stick. He's like, no, I don't need your Snickers money. I'm waiting for M&Ms. Everybody knows that that's where the money is. Like, the
dude had Red Bull come to him without doing one thing. Like, who could say that?
But there will be a day when you have a guy, and look, you could make a case in Diabell. They've weirdly, look, he's not Arch, right? But he is a guy with comes from a situation that is a true 1% of 1%. But Nico doesn't come from that kind of a background. And most guys on the Texas team don't. At some point, you're going to end up with a quarterback. Hey, man, if NIL existed in 2005, Vince Young would have considered coming back in 2006, but for how much money?
Yeah, right.
And the thing is, would Texas have it? Because the one thing I'll say as this story relates to Texas is I feel like I'm always lecturing Texas fans that I hear behind the scenes that there's a need for more donors. But there's not been a scare story yet that would justify constantly being told there's a potential problem. So I get it, man. Texas fans are like, okay, here's catch again. On one hand, they don't have enough NIL, but on the other hand, they're going to go big in the portal, which isn't catch. And there's not this realization that the burden continues to fall on a really small number of people who are not committed to doing this forever. And at some point, if one person said, you know what? Did you hear about what happened in the stock market this month? I'm out. I lost $100 million and I got to slow my roll a little bit. All it would take is one of three guys just saying, I can't do this anymore. And now there's a shortfall. And everybody's trying to work out the kinks of how do we still fund our collective in a way that it works in unison with the school's going to be spending, because the schools at most of the major programs are going to maybe at most put 17 or 18 million into the coffers of NIL out of that 20.5 million settlement, Chad. But there are going to be, I would guess, between 5 and 10 teams in college football this year that spend 30 plus million. And if Ohio State was the bar a year ago at 20, that number might be 40 in 2025. And
because you're saying they'll take, to be clear, you're saying they'll take that 17 million or so that they can pay them, but they're going to add in the collective stuff.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that money accounts for rising costs. I mean, Nico's asking for $4 million. You know what he's probably doing right now? He's probably looking at some of these dudes in basketball and saying, well, that guy just got 1.5 and he's not the starting quarterback on the football program that generates all of the money.
Yeah.
I'm the quarterback of the $1 billion enterprise. What I am not is a sixth man in basketball. And you know what? You're not going to pay me like a sixth man in basketball. He's probably looking at the Tennessee basketball roster and thinking, there are dudes over there making a couple of $1 million. That's what I'm making.
Yeah. All right, let's grab a couple super chats. We've had a few come in. First off, ATX Bates says, why is the $9.99 chat never working? Bates, we don't know. Try the $10 version, then try the $20 version.
I would say $19.99 works. I think.
See how that works. $19.99. Add a 1, see if that works. Sailor Joe, $5 super chat. Chad, I agree. I think the public statement is simply, we're watching the portal. We know the spring games are happening. Time to showcase what you've got. Yeah, maybe that kind of messaging. Maybe not to the.
Chad, I would agree with that a year ago.
Yeah,
I just think that's in 2025. It's become a little naive. You know what I mean? Because this Nico story is telling us what the game is about right now.
Yeah,
and it's not that. My sense is every dude that is going into the portal or thinking about it, he knows what the landscape for his, now not the fringe guys.
Right. And I think that ultimately, that's what he speaks to. It's like for the big time guys, it's just a little extra info. Like you said, the agent's already talked to him about it. As soon as Sark says it out loud like that at a presser, then it's just a quick message of, hey, Sark just had a presser today and he mentioned wide receiver. Keep them in mind. But then like you said, for those fringe guys that are thinking about it, that haven't contacted their agent, maybe they find out about it and go, I don't know, let me just throw my name in just in case. I think both of those things can be true.
It's again, and look, what this story does for Nico is it puts the bat signal out for schools that need quarterbacks. If you're going through the spring right now, and I see Rodolfo says they're saying Ohio State is trying to get Nico. I would find that hard to believe, but Nico is experienced. Whatever. I don't know that I think of Nico as one of the top 4 quarterbacks in the SEC.
Yeah.
But he did quarterback a team to the playoffs last year. That happened.
Yeah.
Although that team was about a lot more than just its quarterback play. He's okay. He's good. But I think generally the thought is he's a future NFL player who is, the conversations they have with Nico in Knoxville are the ones that Texas fans had about Quinn Ewers. It was like, well, the numbers weren't there, but like, wait till he makes the jump. And Quinn never made the jump. But if he had, we would have looked back at 2022 and 2023, and we would have said, well, those were the preambles to, you know what I mean? And it just didn't quite happen that way. But that's how they talk about Nico. It's how Texas fans talked about Chris Sims. This is what we do with 5-star quarterbacks. It's always the anticipation that it's going to happen. And look, Nico thinks it's going to happen. I kind of think this is smart on Nico's part because maybe he's not that good and this is the most amount of leverage he's ever going to have as a quarterback in his entire life. But again, on a scale of 1 to 10, Chad, how much do you dislike this story?
How much do I dislike it?
Does it bother you? Because for a lot of people, they're going to look at this story and go, oh, this is the pro footballication of college football, and this makes me hate the sport, and I don't like where this is going. And I'm a little bit of a shoulder shrug, neither like, sweet, can't wait to see how this, like, I'm not there. No,
I'm probably just creeping over the halfway point, like a 6, maybe 7. And it's not about the sport. It's about it's not what they're doing. It's how they're doing it. I continue to make that argument. It's not about these new rules. It's that it's being done so sloppily, if that's a word. That word is as sloppy as the point. But like, they're just not paying attention to the nuts and the bolts and the I's and the T's. They're just sort of, it's like they came up with all their NIL rules and they're just pouring them out of a wheelbarrow instead of really meticulously going over it. Like they should have had this all figured out to where we know how a badass quarterback and the badass university interact with one another. Tennessee and Nico are making this up as they go along because they can. And that's the part that frustrates me. But in terms of it making me mad on its face, no. I'm just mad at how it's being orchestrated in the sport. They got to get this stuff figured out.
Well, look, there's a way to figure it out. The schools get off their high horse and they call these kids employees. The employees at that point negotiate a collective bargaining agreement. And then you're a lot closer to having a system that
right. And
these types of things won't happen in.
Yeah, and you come up with reasonable opening and closing times for portals. You come up with very clear language for what can be discussed, what isn't going to be discussed, what does the free agency mean, what does it not mean, all of that stuff. Can you do 1-year deals? Are there 3-year deals? What about 2-year deals? Like, lay it all out. That's what they have not ultimately done yet.
It kind of reminds me of the scene in Dazed and Confused when they're in class, and as the bell rings, the teacher screams out, and hey, when you're celebrating the 4th of July this year, just remember that a bunch of guys didn't want to pay their taxes. And it's like, this is happening because the decision makers in college football don't want to call these kids employees. They still want to pretend that on some level this is amateurism. They don't want to take on the burden of what it would mean to suddenly be responsible for healthcare and things like that. And it leaves us in a world where this can happen and there's no control, there's no fence, there's no parameters. It's wild, wild west stuff. And I would say if the anger is with players and agents, I think it's misplaced. I would be that teacher in Dazed and Confused as the bell is ringing saying, hey, when you go home this weekend and you pay attention to this story and you get mad about the way the whole thing's going down, just remember a bunch of school presidents and athletic directors and school officials who were all making incredibly high salaries didn't want to call these kids employees. And here we go.
Yeah. More super chats to grab here. Let's get them in order. I think this one was first. ATX Bates, $4.99. Chad, I give you crap for movies. I finally watched Smokey and the Bandit. Seems like Texas has more Smokies for running backs. My question, who's Texas's Bandit? Bates, I think you might be extending the analogy a little too far here. Like you just saw it for the very first time, and now you're trying to use an analogy to break down college football.
So wait, he's saying that the Texas running back room is full of Sheriff Buford T. Justices?
There's no way I'm averaging less than 4.8 a carry. No way.
Who's Junior in this role?
There's no way that you came from my backfield.
Daddy. Sorry.
Hey, Daddy, are we playing Sam Houston State this week? Shut up, Junior.
Don't forget the hush puppies, Daddy.
We got no time for that crap. That's rough, babe.
To answer the question, I don't know who the Texas Bandit is. ATX Bates? I don't.
In that room, if he's specifically saying running backs, I don't know either. The biggest candidate, if he's right, it's Baxter. But no, I don't know.
I think Wisner is the most explosive of that group. I mean, Baxter's 230 pounds right now.
Right. But those two guys have the opposite problem to me, though. They have each not shown us, Catch, they can be an every down badass running back for different reasons. But they just haven't shown us.
Trey Wisner anything, what would you make him? Your every down workhorse running back, or being able to depend on him as a big play threat?
The second thing.
Yeah.
The second thing. He's felt like a big play.
Does he? Because I don't know. That's what I want from him, but I don't think that's what Jaden Blue was.
Yeah, he's felt like a jet sweep, badass, get him in space kind of guy. Not the workhorse, give him 25 carries and see where you go. That's not what he feels like to me. He has not proven that. And 2.7 yards against Ohio State speaks to that.
I don't want to relitigate the running back conversation.
Fair enough.
And ATX Bates is like, because ATX, you can go watch every show that I've been on this week. It's come up. And my thoughts don't work in unison, I think, with what Sarkisian and the people inside the program are saying. And look, I joked with Anwar Richardson earlier today about something else that, look, I'm wrong 10 times a day at least. So it may be that we'll get to October and we'll say, Catch, remember all that stuff that you were talking about in April? You were wrong, at which point I'll go, yeah, I was. It worked out. They knew better than I did. But I will say there are times when the opposite has occurred, and I've known better than they did.
Yeah. By the way, Rex, it's a good callback. Well done. CJ Baxter like Diablo sandwiches. And make it fast. I'm in a goddamn hurry. All right.
Dr. Pepper in this.
Yeah, right. Who is the Dr. Who are we casting as the Dr. Pepper? A couple more $4.99 super chats. Barb's 10. Are we not going to talk about JT and Micah owning Lubbock? I don't think that is what we're going to talk about. Barb's 10.
We're not, but look, I will say, when I told you guys that these schools have money to throw around.
Who's JT, the Stanford guy?
No, JC Toppin, the basketball player who came back, who has come back for another year as the reigning Big 12 Player of the Year to play basketball at Texas Tech.
Gotcha.
Man, they got money. Everybody's got money. And look, I think Texas Tech is going to be one of these programs that does have more money than what the school produces from an NIL standpoint, which will allow the school to push some of those funds away from football into a sport like basketball or even women's basketball or softball or something like that, because they have people who are active and will support the NIL. I think it's interesting that in a sport like at Kansas, you've got basketball and football fighting over that $20.5 million.
Right.
And because if they give Kansas basketball as much as $5 million. That means the football program will be getting less NIL money from the collective bargaining agreement or the settlement, not the CBA, but the settlement, than any other program in the Big 12. And they know that their Kansas football NIL sucks. So Tech could go, well, we don't need 17. Give us 16 of the 20. We got another 10. So we're going to be okay, especially in the Big 12. But Kansas may go, whoa, God, if you're giving basketball 5, then all that's left is 15.5.
Yeah.
Even if you give us the 15.5 and don't give anybody else, we don't even have $5 million coming in from an NIL standpoint. So maybe they're working with $19 million because Kansas boosters are giving their money to basketball, not football.
Yeah. And also a small detail catch, but let's also remember the actual amount has not been determined. We are talking about government interpreting the NCAA. There is no telling where this thing ends up. There's really no telling. You're bringing up the 20.5. That's the number that's thought of. I've read other numbers. There's nothing that says it has to be 20.5. Right. It could be 25. And it could go up in 3 years. It could be like a salary cap that keeps going up.
It will go up in 3 years.
What's that?
It will go up.
Right, because it'll be based on revenue. They're going to put a cap and say, all right, here's your cap based on all the revenue that's been collected. Cap this year is 24. The cap this year is 27 or whatever. And it's like, you can spend what you want up to that number. It's going to be nuts. And then to your point, a basketball program like Kansas, a football program like Kansas, they're going to reassess that every time it gets changed. Okay, how much do we get now? They're going to have to rework it every damn time.
I talked to a guy that covers Kansas, and he just flat out said it's a problem.
Oh, man.
That you're telling, if you're giving Kansas basketball, and look, it's Kansas basketball. They don't get the same revenue split as Texas basketball gets with Texas football.
No, they have a different kind of clout, different discussion.
But they have that. And so, but what you're telling, and where this becomes a problem and where we'll see it in the future, Kansas has been able to keep a guy like Lance Leipold.
Mm-hmm.
But if he starts to feel like he's being asked on the NIL front to do this with one hand tied behind his back because there's a lack of commitment, he won't be at Kansas long. This in the future, these will be the types of things that, we've heard coaches say, oh, it was really important that they took care of my staff. Okay, well, in the future, it's going to be, it was really important to me to know that I will have the financial resources to allow me to compete at an elite level. That's the quote. And you either hear it from a head coach or you're not a big time program. If you hire a coach and at no point during the introductory news conference, he doesn't say, and they gave me the backing to let me know in this brave new world that we are going to be nationally elite and we're fighting for championships. And because you can't talk about championships in 2025 almost in any sport, maybe rowing. But even now in rowing, to win a national championship, what do you have to do? You got to match Texas and all their scholarships.
I was going to say, there's a lot of schollies out there.
That's what the rowing coach said. He spoke yesterday, Chad, to the media.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked him about, 68 scholarships. And he was like, well, we probably won't ever get 68, but we could. I think this kind of comes down to what CDC says we can take. But in our world, nobody talks about NIL. It doesn't come up. In our world, it's percentage of scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
What we'll be able to do with every single person we recruit is give a full scholarship to.
Yep.
And what they're competing against are quarter scholarships. And some kids get books, but they don't get tuition. And they're thankful to have it.
Well, Texas is finally going to be able to fight in baseball in a way they haven't before. Texas has been one of those 11.7s for all these years. If they go from that to 25 and get to offer full baseball scholarships over and over and over and over and over again, holy moly.
In addition to NIL money.
Yeah, right. In addition to the fact that they
So
get
you're going to be able, I think, to keep guys out of the draft moving forward, because if you're not a top of the top draft pick, you can probably, we're not far away from the point where I think a school keeps a guy from going into the draft because they're able to give him 7 figures. And suddenly you've got a guy for 3 years who makes at the school he signs with the amount of signing bonus money he would have gotten had he gone into the draft. He gets the signing bonus and he gets an education. And oh, by the way, he does still get to enter the draft in 3 years. So it's almost like double dipping. You almost put yourself into a position to get double that payment, as opposed to you get paid once and then you got to work your way all the way up to the majors before you ever get that money again. I think college baseball is going to be a big winner, because I do think we're going to start seeing guys that aren't, because these teams have pools of money they can't spend beyond now in Major League Baseball. So it's, you take your 10 guys and you try to spread that money around, but a poison pill could easily be, what do you mean Tennessee is paying a kid $1 million? We want to sign him for $400,000. And at which point that kid's probably going to college at that point.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. There's a lot of, and then there's more than one sport. I think we're seeing a little bit of that in women's basketball right now. Like there was the player at Notre Dame, everybody thought was headed to the draft. She's coming back, and I think she's going to TCU. And when she probably looked at NIL versus what am I really going to be getting in the WNBA when that the draft. Just like you're talking about those guys comparing minor league money to what they would be getting in college. There's a lot of discussions out there. One more super chat we didn't grab on the Nico thing. This is just a funny name to bring up. $4.99. Thank you, Barbs10. Nico about to get that Matt Flynn money. He's a Jag until he's not. Flynn stayed a Jag. Interesting. Matt Flynn. Isn't Flynn the one that won the Natty for them?
Yes.
Don't I have that right? Yeah.
Yeah, but he's talking about the money that the Seahawks gave him.
Oh, that
only to draft Russell Wilson.
That's
and then Matt Flynn just never played.
I see. Okay. He's going to the pro version. By the way, also, thank you, Barbs.
Not the Matt Flynn in college version. No.
Not the college version. Rex says 2,600 passing, 19 touchdowns, 5 picks. Decent, not great. And he wants how much? Let him walk. Wow, Rex. That's tough.
Hey, man, let him walk. But if you're Tennessee, what does that mean? What does that mean for your football program?
Yeah, come on, man. He's your guy. You can't do that. You can't. To me, you can't do that. And catch this gets us back to when you mentioned the players and that you tend to lean maybe towards their side sometimes. These schools just have to be really careful. I'm not saying Nico couldn't be at fault here, but you really don't want a precedent to start among your current players and among your recruits, your commits, the guys that you're recruiting, the guys you're bringing in for visits. You do not want the reputation to get around that you just don't pay. You say you're going to pay, but you don't pay. Whatever that is, handshake, write it on a napkin, however you do it. You can do business a lot of ways, but if you don't do business, and by the way, Catch, we haven't even mentioned Nico's dad yet. This thing's got a little social media flavor because Nico's dad is taking a shot at the media member that is reporting this and basically saying, hey, they checked with me and it's not coming from us. So Nico's dad is going out of his way to let us all know that this is coming from Knoxville. At least that's the impression I get from what his dad did.
Hey, look. I am not a stan for Nico. I'm not. You've done enough shows with me. You know who my top 4 quarterbacks in the SEC are. Nico's not in it. But can I acknowledge the elephant in the room?
Sure.
Nico's quarterback rating last season in his second year,
okay,
as a redshirt freshman, but second year in college, was 145.3.
It's not dazzling.
Quinn Ewers in his 4th year was 149.0.
Mm-hmm. And in some of the biggest moments of his season, he was not good. Nico.
Quinn Ewers, yards per attempt, 7.8. Nico, yards per attempt, 7.8. Completion percentage, Nico, 63.8. Quinn, 65.8. But Quinn was 58.1 at the same stage of development in college. So I know how you guys are talking about Nico, but hey, man, read the room. Because the thing you're talking about Nico and like, hey, man, he's a Jag until he's not a Jag, I do not disagree. Let's just keep it consistent. Keep it consistent. And, you know, I mean, I just think that Nico's probably better than some of the people in the chat and maybe watching the video think he is. He was a redshirt freshman, former 5-star. Like, in his first year as a starter, he took Tennessee to the playoffs and was average. But he was almost as average as Quinn Ewers was in doing the exact same thing, but in his 4th season of college. So, you know, and even if you wanted to say, well, don't count that Ohio State year, okay, then last year was still Quinn's 3rd year as a starter, 3rd and a half year as a college quarterback. Is that fair? So I just, you know, I think some of the language being discussed using Nico, at least on the Texas side in this conversation, feels a bit short-sighted. He's a guy with a lot of upside. He's got a big old NFL frame. He does have to get better. But this guy essentially had the same season from an efficiency standpoint and from an accomplishment standpoint as he went one fewer round in the playoffs, but lost to the same team as Ewers did.
Yeah, and lost way worse.
Well,
like, if that matters, but lost in a very different way.
Well, that game was in the cold, in Columbus, at night. It was not, and he was not good.
Right,
but
and they got slaughtered. Yeah, they got slaughtered in that game.
That was a reminder of like Tennessee is not ready for prime time.
Yeah, that's true. Just to be fair to the comparison, Catch, do we know if Nico is thrown to any receivers with broken hands? Do we have any I'm sorry. That's
I will say this: the Tennessee offense scored more points than the Texas offense did.
Okay. All right.
And he didn't get picks. He didn't. Never mind.
He didn't get. Okay. All right. They already think you hate Quinn enough, Catch. Let's.
No, but I'm saying, like, it's funny how we talk about these things. Just funny how we talk about them. Let's go into buy or sell.
All right, we got we do have a super chat we'll get to. In fact, let's warm up with buy or sell because Esrone gave us one. $5 super chat. Buy or sell. Ooh. If you could have any 3 former Texas players in their college prime on the 25 team, it would be Jordan Shipley, Blaylock, and David Thomas. Buy or sell. Wow, does this speak to Arch Manning? Holy moly, what a buy or sell that is.
I'm selling the shit out of that.
I mean, I'm not dogging any of those 3 dudes right there, Catch, but there's got to be a sell and a different plan if you could really.
I can have any 3. Can I have Vince?
Right. That's what I'm saying. This speaks to Arch Manning in such a heavy way. I'm like, wait a minute.
That's wrong. We can have any 3 former Texas players in their prime.
You got to sell. I want Earl and Vince to start with.
I don't get. I was Earl, Ricky. What if we just went Ricky, Earl, and Jamal Charles? I'm kind of okay with everything else staying the same.
Okay, here's what we're doing, Catch. We're gonna sell. I'm going Vince, Earl, and Ricky. They're the backfield. We're gonna run a super wishbone and let Art still be the quarterback.
Do you know how I bet you can convert 4th and 1 with those dudes?
You can pitch it back as far as you want backwards. They're going to get to the line, I promise you. You can throw it 10 yards backwards to Earl. He will find the line to gain.
Look, here's the thing, Esrone. You can't even ask that question. You have to say, can't have any quarterbacks or running backs in order for this to work.
Take out Vince and the Heisman guys, and then
no, because I still want Jamal Charles if we're doing that.
Well, that's true. At least then you'd start with Jamal instead of those other three.
I'm lamenting the loss of Jaden Blue because I'm still in love with Jamal Charles. That's who I want.
But S. Roan, here's what I appreciate about your buy or sell. As a fan of a line of scrimmage, you put Blaylock in it. I love it.
No, I'm taking Dan Neal to play center.
I love it, S. Roan, that you put Blaylock in. I'd sell the crap out of it, but I love that you put Blaylock in.
Blaylock over Dan Neal?
No.
Okay.
No, never.
Okay.
I would not do it. And I love Justin Blaylock. I'm a huge fan of Blaylock's, but I am with you that Dan Neal is in another category. I would absolutely take Neal first.
And no offense to David Thomas, but I mean, give me Cedric Benson instead.
Well, that's true. If we're having just a tight end discussion, David Thomas needs to be a part of it. But
look, if I'm being completely honest, give me Vince Young.
Here we go.
Well, because I could make a case that if I threw Derek Johnson and Earl Thomas on the defense and just had Vince at quarterback.
Well, I was thinking, what if you did Vince, Casey Hampton, and
Hampton.
What if it's Vince, Casey Hampton, and what's the first pick? Kenneth Sims? I mean, if I could do something like that.
The thing is, S. Roan, we love your group of 3 players.
I do love them.
None of those guys are coming to mind, though. Yeah. I wish I could say that Jordan Shipley would be the first that I would pick. But even at receiver, I would say Roy. I think Jordan Shipley was a better player than Roy Williams in college. But Roy Williams, what he does to scare the ever-living crap out of teams, and I would want Xavier Worthy over Jordan Shipley.
Right, because
I want to put that speed on the field and
because to S. Roan's point, you're either getting Roy Williams or Xavier Worthy with Arch Manning to terrify someone. That's what S. Roan is building here.
I promise you, Arch can hit a guy down the field.
S. Roan, thank you very much for that. Also, thank you earlier to Jeremy who sent us this one. Headed to Corpus, do a little deep sea fishing. Listen to y'all every day at work. Great podcast. Keep up the great work. Hook 'em horns.
Jeremy, I have a buy or sell question that's going to make you laugh your ass off while you're headed to Corpus.
There you go. Jeremy, go catch a big one today. We appreciate you jumping in. All right, Cat, you ready to roll? You want to go first or second?
I want to go second because I want my last question to be the last buy or sell question of the week.
Fair enough. Well, I'm going to start with Mr. Manning. Buy or sell number 1, Catch. If Arch throws a fourth quarter pick that cost Texas the game in Columbus, the fans will not blame Arch. Buy or sell?
It's a sell, but it's a possible buy.
Okay.
Not all interceptions are the same. Mm-hmm. I can see a scenario where the play caller gets blamed.
I can see a scenario where they blame refraction off the moon before they blame Arch. Dude, they're going to blame everything.
I mean, sometimes you just blame circumstances, right? You go, well, it was his first start on the road.
Hey, again, I didn't say
that's the fault.
Right. Catch, if I'd said Athens, it's a different story. It's Columbus. They're going to give him some leeway in Columbus. I promise you.
The leeway might be gone by Athens, though.
By Athens, you're right. All right, Catch, let's go to that baseball team. Buy or sell number 2. Texas baseball won't lose an SEC series.
Oh, I'll sell. That.
Okay.
Hey, A&M took out the number 1 team in the country last week, 2 out of 3 times. That after being no hit in the opener. So it's hard, man. It is hand-to-hand combat on the daily in the SEC in baseball and softball. And so OU softball lost 2 out of 3 to Tennessee, and then Tennessee came back the next week and lost 2 out of 3 to, I think, an unranked team, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah,
it's a bloodbath out there, man.
By the way, Catch, you know what they call that? You get no hit and then come back, win the series. That's the old Bluebell okey doke. You just get them all nice and confident, and then bam, bam, deadly. All right, Catch, let's go.
I'm going to use that in the future, by the way. You've just introduced Bluebell okey doke into my lexicon, and I like it.
Just lay in wait. Lay in wait, have a horrible start to the season, and then strike.
The question is not, will I use the Bluebell Okie Doke in a future column?
But when?
The question is, how long will it take me to find a way to reference the Bluebell Okie Doke?
I am glad I could give you a little gift. All right, let's, speaking of Longhorns, let's go to Augusta for this one, Catch. Buy or sell number 3. If Scheffler wins the Masters this weekend, he will pass Spieth in your mind on the UT golf list.
Sell. Scheffler's already passed Spieth.
Oh, okay. Already done it. Just checking. Just checking. They would have the same number of majors, but it would be 3 out of 4 at the Masters and only the Masters for Scheffler, and it's 1 each at those 3 for Spieth.
Maybe so I'm already judging Spieth on the staying power, and we've already seen what the next portion of his career looks like. But man, he really feels like a flash in the pan at the highest level, and I feel like Scheffler's got multiple majors left in him. So, in my mind, he's ahead of Spieth, even if, and it's close, but I would rate Scheffler ahead of him.
All right, Catch. This one's just for my knowledge, and maybe other people would be interested too, but it hit me today that I don't know. Buy or sell number 4. You've seen Liverpool play live.
Sell. But I have seen Steven Gerrard play live.
Okay.
Which is the closest thing I could get. They've come to the States and they've done like those barnstorming preseason tours.
Uh-huh.
And it's just hard for me to be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fly out to Ann Arbor so that I can go. And I could go to Ann Arbor and watch them play in the big house, which sounds kind of cool, but it's like, it's just a preseason match.
Like, so I'm assuming your dream scenario would be to see them at their home field.
I've almost gone to, as a matter of fact, I got invited this weekend. I got a buddy of mine that lives in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
He is the president of the Liverpool Supporters Club in Singapore. He is the CFO of One Fighting, which is Asia's version of the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to Liverpool this weekend to see Liverpool play, and he has a suite. And he was like, hey, if you can get down here, I've got the tickets in the suite. I was like,
all you have to do is get here. Sure. I'll be right there.
That's how my man Ross rolls, though. He's like Ross, R-A-S, by the way, not R-O-S-S. Different Ross.
Little Ross. I got you.
Ross.
All right, Catch. This may be a first. This is a more impressive triple threat match. Here we go. Buy or sell number 5. Brooklyn Decker is 38 years old. I believe it's tomorrow that's her birthday. In terms of Adam Sandler getting hotties to be in his movies, getting Brooklyn is more impressive than Selma Hayek, which is more impressive than Jennifer Aniston. Adam Sandler, triple threat.
It's an easy buy.
It's a buy.
I mean, there's a little bit of Brooklyn Decker's in a different orbit than those two women. So
yeah, when she came out of the ocean in that bikini, I remember just thinking, wow, this is Sandler's greatest achievement.
Brooklyn Decker is just in a different orbit than
the
other women who are in different orbits than other mere mortals.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
You know my policy. If you're a Victoria's Secret supermodel or a swimsuit cover girl supermodel in the old days, before almost anybody could be on the cover, like there was a certain kind of spectacular that was reserved for the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And those are just different. They're just different. They're just different. And then we go to the Jennifer. The real question was, did I think Jennifer Aniston at her peak was hotter than Selma Hayek in her peak? And the answer is no, but I prefer Aniston's body type in general. Like, I'm a Keira Knightley fan and I'm a Natalie Portman. Like, I like a slender woman. So it was closer on that side of the battle than it would be, I think, for most people. But if we're just going from dusk till dawn, that version of Selma Hayek, pretty scorching in a non-mortal version. She's not mortal. She's just not supermodel or like, immortal, but she's as close as you're going to get in her prime to bumping into that territory.
There you go. All right, that's my 5. Before we hear Catch's 5, he wants to end it on his side of things. Let's give Specs their love. Here's Lisa with a reminder.
Hey, Lisa.
As a Texas family-owned business, we know you don't mess with Texas. And you won't find more ways to raise a glass of Texas-made cheer than right here. So whatever you're planning, we're ready to get you ready. Because at Specs, the fun starts here.
Yes, indeed. Get stocked up for your weekend. All right, Catch, what do you got?
Buy or sell number 1. The Texas confidence at running back is a bit of a public show, and they know it behind the scenes.
I'll buy that because sometimes you're trying to send messages to young guys that, work hard and bust your ass and you're going to have an opportunity and all that. But I think if the right situation presents itself, I think if Jaheim White legitimately wants to come hang out with those 2 former coaches of his, somehow I think Sark would be interested in having that conversation. So, yeah, I'll buy.
Oh, by the way, you probably don't want the players in that room to know that their former position coach and his head coach are like foaming at the mouth to get that guy in. It would, you got to try.
Yeah, right.
It's like if the next door neighbor is incredibly hot. You just can't come out and say that.
Yeah, no, you don't want to be sitting at dinner with your wife and be like, hey,
Wendy,
the 2 that just moved in.
Woo! Have you seen Jamie?
Did you see the neighbor's wife?
She's in the garden.
Oh my God.
Easily the best ass on the block. Like, you're not doing that.
Made me care about begonias.
And I don't care about your flowers, but her flowers, I could watch her pushing up daisies. I don't care.
Don't say it that way, fellas. Please don't say it that way.
Buy or sell number 2, Nico Iamaleava is just using his leverage. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, I'm going to buy. Plus, I think there might be another layer of it, one way or the other. Is there a part of this that's just Tennessee said there'd be a discussion and there hasn't been a discussion, and now we're to spring practice, and are they just trying to kick that NIL can down the road, and he's decided not to let them? So I'm going to buy. I think there's more going on here, and yes, this is a time. It's a good point you made earlier. His leverage might not be any greater than it is right now. By the way, they play Georgia, they play at Bama this year, and they play at Florida late in the year. Tennessee's got some massive games to deal with.
Can't let this happen if you're Tennessee.
No, you can't.
Oh, Mickey Mouse.
You cannot let it happen. You're right.
And when we did that story, it was like Texas doesn't ever want to have a story get out where none of their players got paid on time, or even one player didn't get paid on time. Right. This is what it looks like.
Right, exactly. Catch, why? I mean, it's not the reason, maybe, but isn't it a big hunk of a reason why Jimbo's not the coach at A&M today? Isn't that part of it? Like, stuff started to be said.
I wouldn't say that yet. I think this is different. But, okay. Hey, man, I understand the picture that you're painting. I just don't know that I would say that yet. But who knows? And ask me on Monday. Because maybe I'll feel different about it then. Buy or sell number 3. Texas Tech's NIL is going to make them a power in the Big 12.
That feels like a buy. Because right now, to be a power in the Big 12, I mean, obviously it's a very different discussion. Huge limb I'm about to go out on. Huge difference. A little different than when Texas and Oklahoma, especially Texas, was in that conference. So, yeah, I feel like that's a buy. We know it. We've known it kind of over time that when those donors out there in Lubbock start to galvanize, they can put a little bit together. So, yeah, I think they'll be one of those, let's say, handful of players at the top of that conference, top 4-ish in the Big 12. Yeah.
I mean, not even Kansas is keeping the JT Toppins of the world out. It was a power move. I give them a lot of credit for that. Buy or sell number 4. It's 24 plus hours later, and you still haven't completely swallowed Luka's return to Dallas.
Buy. I haven't recorded. I cannot make myself watch it yet. I've watched the highlights, but it's still just the digestion, the process, the crowd popping for him, hitting shots as a Laker while chanting "Fire the GM." It was just such a show. I'm proud of the crowd in some ways. I don't like what they did in some ways. I'm still in like therapy mode right now.
And finally, buy or sell number 5. So I was on Spotify last night, and I heard a song by Jeff Buckley, "Everybody Here Wants You." And I was like, I thought of, there's a certain kind of playlist I've never created on Spotify. So I started putting like a sexy time playlist together.
Okay.
With like sex songs,
It's like baby making music.
Yeah.
Like a baby making playlist.
A baby making playlist.
Baby making playlist. Here we go.
Buy or sell number 5. You and Wendy have a go-to sexy time song, album, or playlist.
Sell. We do not.
No,
we do not. We do not.
I thought you were going to tell me like it was the Indigo Girls or something like that.
Indigo Girls. Closer to Fine. That's the one. No. I mean, we have an album that I could tell you we kind of dated around and fell in love to and things like that. But in terms of what you're asking here, no.
Not Boys to Men. You don't play "I'll Make Love to You" when it's go time.
Nope. The as much as we both like music is not part of that. Yeah.
Interesting.
So there you go.
Well, look, if you want to test it out, I'll shoot you a link to the brand new. Let me see what I called this thing. Hold on.
Let me know.
What do you think I called the playlist? You know the theme.
Hubba Hubba.
Oh, I like that. Maybe I should change it. I called it Midnight Naughty.
Midnight Naughty. I will say, Catch, if this was a buy, it would be "Pour Some Sugar on Me" by Def Leppard. Because there's no song that references naughtiness that my wife enjoys more than that song. So that's what you need to do is accidentally have that song playing at the right time. Just test it out. Test drive it. You wouldn't drive the car home unless, you gave it a spin around the block. Yeah, maybe just pour some sugar on me. Just see what happens. All right. Yeah, never know. Could work. There you go. There's a little buy or sell for you. I think we did have a super chat. Catch real quick before we get out of here. A little $9.99 super chat from Wes. My dogs. Miss you guys. Wes? With an exclamation point. What up, Wes?
Hope things are well with you and your family in San Antonio.
Hope you're doing well, and thank you for $9.99. We will certainly take that in the old tip jar. Catch, before we all head off into our weekends, could you please tell the people about Rogue Shop, the goodness of Rogue Shop? Cody Carpentier is starting his Rogue Shop experience this week, and the folks can do it too.
Let me tell the people about the Rogue Shop. I am not going to do the entire thing as Bad Bill Cosby. Scan the QR code, go to rogueshop.com. And I know that Chad was really hopeful there that for a moment it was just going to turn into Bad Bill Cosby doing the Rogue Shop. You can get the THC on your pudding pops. You just go to the Rogue Shop and the QR code, and Shar and Richard will do the order for you, and they'll make sure you have the right things for the people. Oh, they've got gummies. They've got a little bit of everything. They'll hook your pets up if you want them to hook them up. The bottom line is they're orange blood people. They love people. They're good to the people. Did I mention the THC flavored pudding? I'm done. Go to Rogue Shop. It fell apart on me. I don't even know what that was at the end.
If you've got a Weimaraner that's a little anxious, you can give him some of the gummies and then he'll go to bed for you. Bah!
Like I made all of those women do back in the day.
If only Rogue Shop. No, that's not it. Not it. Check out Rogue Shop. And good luck to Cody.
I
And all
used
of
to
you.
get them high with the joints, but I didn't have the gummies to take it to the next level because then they do the tests. And instead of finding the date rape drug, they'd find the THC. Blah.
Wow. Wow. Maybe the best ending to a show we've had. Or the worst ending to a show.
Bill Cosby should be in prison, guys, just for the record.
Oh, man. I think Cotton just nailed your impersonation. Bill Cosby. Macho Man awesomeness. It really did kind of mix back and forth. If we're going to have a party, oh, yeah. It kind of had like all of it at the same time.
Cotton, I'm glad you were able to piece that together. I wasn't sure what was happening, but I think you put your finger on the pulse.
Yeah, and Cotton, no matter what he ever did on the road to any other wrestler, Randy's reputation far better than Bill's at this point in 2025. I think we can all agree.
Close?
It is not close. Not even kind of. It's
like,
not
I
even.
don't even know that he was great to Elizabeth, but it's not close.
No, it's not even sort of. Even the reputation of like Jimmy Snuka at this point, who may have been responsible for killing someone, might be better than where Bill is right now. Just saying.
Pudding-eating motherfucker. Yep.
Just saying.
Well, Bill, I said have a Coke and a smile and.
Yeah. You mentioned the Raw thing and how it survives. I also enjoy, Catch, that all of the comedians that felt sort of persecuted by him now get to throw out lines whenever they want. All of them. The ones that swear a lot, the young black comedians that he used to lecture all the time, boy, they'll spray it out there, man. Everyone's in so many sets now. You'll hear little Cosby references, and they just get to look out like, what's wrong? What
too soon? Fuck him. That's basically
too
the
soon.
attitude.
Like, right? Too soon? What are we talking about? Yeah. And shout out to Hannibal, the real hero in that story. All right, Catch. Anything else on a Friday before we get out of here?
No, I'm sufficiently ready for the weekend now.
Yeah, after that finish, we probably need to be. And best of luck to Nico in Tennessee, getting things figured out. Also, thank y'all for liking, subscribing, getting your notifications. Like on the way out if you didn't like on the way in. We appreciate it. Football with Friends coming up at 6 this evening. And don't forget, bright and early, Monday at 9 a.m., this guy and Anwar Richardson with the Overreaction Monday show. It may or may not include Catch impersonating Bill Cosby. If you do that, Anwar may leave.
Doing a Macho Man impersonation, and then it turns into Bill Cosby.
That would be really good. If you could do that on Monday morning, start as Macho Man and then end as bad Bill Cosby, that would be fantastic.
I miss bad Bill Cosby. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Those were the days. Those were the days. All right. Y'all have a great weekend. Take care. We are House Divided, and this is Orange Bloods Live.